Most people are trying to get rich with the same mind that's keeping them broke. If your mind isn't trained like a millionaire, your bank account will always reflect your mindset, not your potential. You can't have $1 million life with a minimum wage mindset. That's not just a catchy phrase, that's a spiritual law, an economic truth, and a personal reality. Most people are trying to build a mansion on a mental foundation that was only designed to hold a shack. They want the results of a millionaire, but they're still thinking like a worker. They're still operating from a place of scarcity, fear, and limitation. And here's the truth. As long as your mind is wired for lack, your life will keep producing it, no matter how hard you work. A minimum wage mindset is not about how much money you make right now. It's about how you think. It's about what you believe you're worth, how you respond to opportunity, how you approach risk, and how you perceive your value in the marketplace. You can earn a high income and still be broke in your beliefs. You can make six figures and still walk around with a scarcity mindset. That's why some people win the lottery and go broke within 2 years they received wealth. But their mind hadn't been trained to manage it, multiply it, or grow it. Millionaire thinking starts in your identity. A minimum wage mindset says, I'm lucky to have this job. A millionaire mind says, I create opportunity wherever I go. One is a mindset of permission. The other is a mindset of power. When you operate with a minimum wage mindset, you are always waiting for someone to approve you, promote you, or rescue you. But when you think like a millionaire, you stop asking for permission and start creating provision. You understand that wealth isn't something you chase, it's something you attract by becoming the kind of person who can handle it. Here's what most people don't understand. Success is not something you stumble into. It's not accidental, it's intentional. It's the byproduct of disciplined thought, and your thinking is either building your future or breaking it down. You cannot operate with limitation in your language, in your goals, in your daily habits, and expect abundance to show up and stay. That's like planting corn and expecting strawberries. You'll always harvest in alignment with your thinking. People with minimum wage mindsets are obsessed with cost. People with millionaire mindsets are obsessed with value. If you tell someone with a minimum wage mindset that a course costs $1.00, they'll say, that's too much. Tell someone with a millionaire mindset the same thing, and they'll ask, how much is that going to return to me over the next 10 years? See, one is trying to preserve what they have, the other is trying to multiply what they have. One sees spending, the other sees investment. The same price, but two different mental filters. Millionaire minds look at time differently too. Minimum wage thinking says, let me trade hours for dollars. It keeps people in the time, for money trapped their whole life. But when you start thinking like the wealthy, you shift the question. You stop asking, how can I earn more per hour? And you start asking, how can I earn without being there? You begin to look for systems, assets, skills, and platforms that separate your time from your income. Because real wealth is not measured in what you earn. It's measured in how you earn it and how much freedom it gives you. Another trait of minimum wage thinking is the fear of failure. People who think small avoid risk at all costs. They want safety, certainty, and security. But here's the catch: the safest path is often the most dangerous. Playing small is risky. Thinking small is expensive because it costs you time, peace, purpose, and potential. Millionaire minds aren't reckless, but they are courageous. They understand that you don't build anything great without some level of faith. You have to be willing to step into discomfort to enter destiny. You have to be okay with the unknown to to walk in abundance. Let's talk about responsibility. Minimum wage mindsets blame the economy, the government, their boss, their background, everything but themselves. But wealthy thinkers take radical ownership. They know that life doesn't happen to them, it happens through them. If something's not working, they don't complain, they correct. If they're not getting results, they don't make excuses, they adjust strategies. That shift alone from blame to responsibility is a millionaire trait that changes everything. You have to rewire your mental defaults. You have to challenge your beliefs around money, success, and worthiness, because what you tolerate mentally, you will replicate physically. If you believe you're only worth surviving, you'll keep living check to check, no matter what opportunities show up. But when you believe you are designed for abundance, you'll start attracting it, seeing it, and creating it, even in places others see nothing. The problem isn't lack of opportunity, it's lack of preparation. The door can be wide open, but if your mind set isn't ready to walk through it, you'll talk yourself out of your own breakthrough. So before you chase the next big thing, before you beg for a raise, before you jump into another business idea, train your mind first. Upgrade your thoughts, stretch your vision, expand your identity, because until your thinking changes, your life can't. You can't out-turn a limited mindset. You can't build $1 million life on. Most people are trained from a young age to trade time for money. It's the default script of society. Go to school, get a job, work hard, and eventually retire. The problem is that entire model is rooted in a mindset that views time as something to spend and money as something to chase. Millionaire minds flip that script completely. They understand that time is the most valuable currency on earth, and once it's gone forever. You can lose money and get it back, but once you spend a day, an hour, or even a minute, you never get a refund. That's why the wealthy think very differently when it comes to how they use, protect, and invest their time. See, when you value money over time, you'll always be hustling but never arriving. You'll keep chasing checks but missing moments. You'll be stuck in the cycle of grinding for dollars while bankrupting your life in every other area: your peace, your health, your relationships, your creativity. But when you learn to value time over money, something shifts. You stop doing everything yourself and start building systems. You stop trading hours and start creating assets. You stop looking for ways to stay busy and start looking for ways to buy your freedom. Millionaire minds are not impressed by busyness. They're not obsessed with filling every hour. They don't brag about 80-hour weeks or skipping sleep. They understand that being busy doesn't equal being productive. Busyness is often just a distraction in disguise. The real flex is creating value that generates income even when you're resting. The real goal is to design a life where you can control your time instead of always selling it to the highest bidder. Think about it. The average person spends their best years giving their best energy to build someone else's dream. They wake up early, sit in traffic, work under pressure, and come home too exhausted to build anything of their own. And they do this for decades, hoping that one day they'll have enough money saved to start enjoying life. But the millionaire mindset says, I'm not waiting until I'm 65 to live. It asks, how can I create freedom now? It prioritizes ownership, leverage, and systems, not just survival. Here's the difference in how the two mindsets approach a decision. A person who values money over time will say, I'll do it myself to save a few dollars. A person who values time over money says, I'll pay someone to do this so I can focus on what produces the most value. One is thinking like a laborer, the other like a leader. One is playing defense, the other is playing offense. And over time, the gap between those two mindsets becomes massive, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Millionaire minds also understand the compound effect of time. They know that what they do with each hour adds up, so they guard their time fiercely. They don't spend hours scrolling aimlessly, watching distractions, or engaging in low-value conversations. They treat time like an investor treats capital. Every hour is either an investment or an expense, and they're always asking, is this moving me forward or just keeping me busy? You'll rarely see a wealthy person doing things that someone else can do for $10 an hour. Not because they're arrogant, but because they understand opportunity cost. If they spend 3 hours mowing their lawn instead of writing a sales letter, making a deal, or building a new product, they've just lost thousands in potential value. They see time in terms of ROI. What is the return on this hour? What's the return on this meeting? What's the return on this habit? And if it's not moving the needle, they delegate it, delete it, or delay it. People with a scarcity mindset are afraid to invest in their time. They'll hesitate to hire help, outsource tasks, or automate systems because they're trying to hold on to money. But in doing so, they end up costing themselves far more in lost time, lost energy, and lost focus. Millionaire thinkers, on the other hand, are always asking, how can I buy back my time? Because they know the more time they buy, the more value they can create. And let's be clear, this isn't just about business. This applies to your whole life: time to think, time to rest, time to spend with your family, time to sharpen your skills, time to pray, time to create. When you're constantly selling your time, you lose your ability to build anything that lasts. But when you protect and invest your time wisely, you start building a life that isn't just rich in money, it's rich in meaning. The world will always try to rent your time for cheap, but you have to decide what your hours are really worth. Millionaire minds don't waste time trying to save pennies. They invest their energy in creating dollars. They don't sacrifice their future for temporary gain. They build structures that give them time back, because time is where true wealth begins. Millionaire minds don't live based on what they see, they live based on what they believe. They don't operate from circumstance, they operate from vision. That's what separates those who create generational wealth from those who stay stuck in cycles of survival. The average person is ruled by the present. They're dominated by what's happening now: the bills, the debt, the problems, the pressure. But the wealthy train their minds to see beyond what is and fix their focus on what can be. Vision is the ability to see the future before it shows up, and not just to see it, but to speak it, plan for it, act on it, and commit to it even when everything around you says the opposite. Most people need to see proof before they believe. But people who operate from vision believe before there's any proof. That's why they act differently. That's why they move while others wait. That's why they invest while others doubt. They are walking by faith, not by sight. See, your current circumstances are just a snapshot, not the full story. Where you are right now is not where you're going. But if you allow your current situation to define your thinking, your decisions, and your strategy, you'll end up building a life that reflects your problems instead of your potential. Vision lifts you above the noise. It gives you something greater to live for, something to endure for, something to sacrifice for, and without it, you'll stay a prisoner of your present reality. People who operate from vision don't let temporary setbacks shake them. They're not surprised by obstacles. They expect resistance, but they refuse to let it define them. When something breaks down, they don't panic, they pivot. When things go slow, they don't quit, they refine. That's because their mind isn't locked into the moment. It's anchored in the mission. Circumstances change, but vision endures. Operating from vision means making decisions that align with your future, not your feelings. You might feel like quitting, but vision says keep building. You might feel broke, but vision says you're building an asset. You might feel small, but vision says you're developing greatness. Millionaire minds know how to ignore the emotional noise of now and move based on what the future demands. They don't ask, "What do I feel like doing today?" They ask, "What does my vision require from me right now?" There's a discipline that comes with vision, because vision won't manifest unless your habits are in agreement with it. You can't have a vision for financial freedom but keep living in emotional spending. You can't have a vision for generational wealth but refuse to study, grow, and lead. You can't have a vision for impact but stay hidden in comfort. Operating from vision means you align your actions with your outcome, not your emotions. It's about congruency between what you see in your spirit and what you do with your schedule. People stuck in circumstance always talk about what they don't have. They blame the economy, their background, their lack of connections. But vision thinkers don't talk like that. They ask, "What do I have in my hands right now?" They know if they can work their vision with what they've got, more will come. The seed always comes before the surplus, and you don't need everything to get started. You just need enough faith to start where you are. Vision thinkers understand that nothing changes until you do. That's why they don't just hope for a better life, they build it. They don't sit around waiting for the perfect conditions, because they know those conditions will never come. If you're waiting for everything to be ideal before you move, you'll be waiting forever. The weather is never perfect, the timing is never perfect, and the circumstances are never perfect. But the vision is perfect, and that's all the clarity you need to begin. Operating from vision will make you look crazy to people who live in fear. You'll be investing while others are saving. You'll be sacrificing weekends while others are partying. You'll be building systems when others are binging shows. You'll be doing what doesn't make sense now, because your focus is on what will make sense later. Vision requires maturity, the maturity to delay gratification, to stay faithful to a process, and to believe in something bigger than the moment. People who operate from circumstance shrink their lives down to what they can control. People who operate from vision expand their lives based on what they're called to. One is ruled by sight. The other is ruled by purpose. One waits for guarantees. The other creates momentum. One is reactive. The other is intentional. And the difference in outcomes is massive. You can't create a life of abundance if your thinking is always reacting to scarcity. You can't build an empire if your daily decisions are built around your emergencies. You can't rise if your perspective is stuck in the dirt. Vision gives you wings. It gives you the power to lift yourself above the limits of your current situation and step boldly into the future you were born for. Most people run from problems. They see them as inconveniences, threats, or burdens. But the truth is, every problem contains the seed of a breakthrough. Millionaire minds are trained to see problems as prophets in disguise. They don't panic when problems arise. They lean in because they understand that every dollar made in this world is connected to a solution. The bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the reward you receive. That's the law of value, and that's why the wealthy train their minds to embrace problems instead of avoiding them. The average person sees a problem and gets discouraged. They say, "Why is this happening to me?" But a millionaire thinker says, "What opportunity is hidden in this?" One sees frustration. The other sees a future. That difference in thinking makes all the difference in results. Problems are not stop signs. They are signals. Signals that something needs fixing, something needs building, something needs creating. And wherever there's something to fix or build or create, there's potential for wealth. This is why people with millionaire mentalities are drawn to pain points. They study them, talk about them, and build around them. They know that if they can relieve someone's frustration, save someone time, or provide a better way, they've just created value. And value is what money chases. While others complain about what's wrong, millionaire minds create what's missing. They don't sit around discussing the problem. They step up and become the answer. The market doesn't reward noise. It rewards solutions. And people pay to have problems solved. If you solve a small problem, you get a small check. Solve a big one, you get a big check. That's why the wealthy don't ask, how can I make more money? They ask, what problem can I solve at scale? That shift in focus moves them from chasing income to creating impact. And when you create real impact, income follows naturally. But this mindset doesn't come naturally to most people. It has to be trained. Because we've been conditioned to avoid discomfort. We've been taught to move away from problems instead of moving toward them. That's why so many people stay stuck. They're avoiding the very thing that could elevate them. Problems are not your enemy, they're your path. They are the gatekeepers to your next level. A millionaire mind doesn't see a failed product, a missed sale, or a broken system as the end. They see it as information. Feedback, a lesson. They don't internalize failure. They analyze it. They extract the lesson, adjust the strategy, and try again with more clarity and confidence. That's why they grow faster. That's why they rise higher. They're not emotionally controlled by what went wrong. They're intellectually empowered by what they learned. Problems also reveal where your next level of influence is. If people are complaining, struggling, or stuck in a particular area, that's a signal. That's the market calling out for a leader, a creator, a thinker, a builder. Millionaire minds listen closely to that noise. They don't dismiss the complaints. They decode them, because hidden inside every complaint is an unmet need. And if you can meet that need better than anyone else, you've just found your lane. One of the greatest abilities a millionaire-minded person has is pattern recognition. They don't just see the surface issue, they see the root. They spot the inefficiencies, the gaps, the pain points, and then they design a bridge. That bridge could be a business, a product, a system, a service. And when that bridge gets people from pain to peace, from problem to solution, from frustration to fulfillment, that's when wealth is created. Because wealth is simply the byproduct of value delivered. It's also important to note that millionaire minds don't just solve their own problems. They solve other people's problems. That's where scale happens. When you stop focusing only on what you need and start focusing on what the world needs, you tap into a larger flow. You go from selfish goals to service-based growth. You start asking different questions. What are people complaining about that I can solve? What do people wish was easier, faster, or better? What is missing that I can create? That's how industries are built. That's how legacy businesses are born. Not from luck, not from hype, but from the consistent, disciplined habit of identifying pain and offering peace. That's why you'll never hear a wealthy thinker say, "I hope nothing goes wrong." They know that challenges are part of the game. They expect them, they're equipped for them, because problems don't shrink a millionaire thinker, they sharpen them. If you want to elevate your income, elevate your value, and the fastest way to increase your value is to increase your ability to solve meaningful problems. That starts with changing the way you see problems altogether. They are not walls, they are windows, not punishments, but platforms not delays, but directions. And when you train your mind to see problems that way, you'll start finding solutions the world will pay to access. Because money doesn't flow to the loudest voice. It flows to the clearest solution. Millionaire minds don't chase shiny objects. They chase skills. They understand that real wealth is not built on what you buy, but on what you become. That's why, while most people are spending their money on temporary pleasures and status symbols, the wealthy are investing in personal development, learning high-income skills, mastering communication, understanding sales, marketing, systems, and leadership. They know that the fastest way to change your financial situation is not to win the lottery or hope for a breakthrough. It's to increase your value to the marketplace through skill acquisition. You can lose everything, your business, your bank account, your assets. But if you've developed valuable skills, you'll never be broke, because a person with skills can always rebuild. They can adapt, pivot, and rise again. That's the power of becoming someone valuable. You stop depending on the economy. You stop hoping someone will save you. You become your own economy. Most people don't understand this because they've been trained to spend, not invest. They buy things that make them look wealthy instead of building the skills that make them wealthy. They'll drop money on the latest phone, the designer shoes, the entertainment subscription, but hesitate when it's time to buy a course, attend a seminar, or hire a mentor. And that's why their situation doesn't change, because stuff depreciates, but skills appreciate. The clothes you wear today will be outdated in a year, but the right skills, they'll multiply your income for decades. Millionaire minds ask a different question. What can I learn that will allow me to serve at a higher level? They're always sharpening the axe. They know that income follows impact, and you can't create high-level impact without high-level skill. Whether it's learning how to close sales, speak with authority, build a brand, lead a team, or scale a system, the wealthy are obsessed with mastery. They're not satisfied with just getting by. They want to dominate in their lane. And they know that domination is a result of dedication to learning. A person with a consumer mindset is focused on entertainment. A person with a wealth mindset is focused on education. The consumer says, I just want to relax. The builder says, I want to grow. One escapes problems. The other develops power. That's why you can find two people in the same situation. Same job, same city, same paycheck. And 5 years later, one is thriving and the other is still stuck. The difference wasn't opportunity. The difference was mindset and skill set. You'll also notice that the wealthy don't just learn once. They're lifelong students. They read books. They take notes. They surround themselves with thinkers. They attend masterminds. They pay for access to rooms that stretch them, because they know that one new idea, one shift in thinking, one piece of insight could produce millions in the long run. They're not afraid to be beginners. They're not too proud to admit what they don't know, and that humility is what keeps them growing. Skills also give you confidence. When you've developed a valuable skill, you don't walk into the room hoping someone chooses you. You walk in knowing you bring something the room needs. You stop chasing approval and start positioning yourself as a solution. That confidence is magnetic. It creates new opportunities. It draws in clients, investors, and partners. And it all begins with the quiet, disciplined decision to invest in your personal growth instead of your public image. Millionaire minds don't ask, how much does it cost? They ask, what will it cost me if I don't learn this? They understand the cost of ignorance. They know that every day spent without the right skill is a day of lost opportunity. And that's why they move fast when they recognize a gap. They don't wait until they're in crisis. They prepare ahead of time. They build skills before they need them. That's what allows them to stay ahead, because they're always upgrading. One of the most powerful skills they develop is decision making. They don't get stuck in overthinking. They don't procrastinate. They've trained themselves to act with clarity, even when the path isn't fully visible. That decisiveness is a skill, and it's learned through experience, failure, and feedback. The more decisions you make, the better you get at making them. That's another reason they invest in skills, because every skill compounds. Communication improves leadership, sales improves income, systems improve scale. Everything connects, everything multiplies. If you look at any highly successful person, behind the scenes is a mountain of skills. Skills they learned when nobody was watching. Skills they practiced when it wasn't glamorous. Skills they developed while others were distracted. And now those skills are paying dividends daily. That's the formula. If you want a different life, become a different person. Not by pretending, not by posturing, but by learning, by studying, by investing in yourself like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. You don't get wealthy by spending money. You get wealthy by learning how to make money work for you. And that starts with learning how to make you work better. Skills are the great equalizer. They don't care where you came from. They don't care about your background. They respond to discipline, focus, and consistency. And once you have them, nobody can take them from you. Millionaire thinkers don't chase the spotlight. They chase structure. They don't show up to impress, they show up to build. In a world obsessed with looking successful, they're more interested in becoming unshakable. While others post highlights, they're laying foundations. They understand that the shine is seductive, but the build is what makes it sustainable. That's why true wealth doesn't announce itself early, it develops in private. It grows underground before it rises into view. Millionaire thinkers embrace the process, the preparation, and the patience. They know that if you shine before you build, your collapse is inevitable. Most people want the lifestyle, but not the discipline. They want the applause, but not the architecture. But success without structure is just noise. A house without a foundation is just waiting for the storm to expose it. Millionaire minds understand that if you want lasting success, you have to build something real. That means building habits, systems, strategies, and character before chasing status. Because when the pressure comes, and it always does, only what's built right will remain. They know that building takes time, and time reveals what hype hides. You can fake momentum for a little while, but you can't fake mastery. Eventually, life will test your structure. That's why the wealthy aren't rushing to go viral. They're not trying to be the loudest in the room. They're focused on being the most solid in the room. Because while attention might get you in the door, ability is what keeps you in the room. And that ability is only developed in the quiet seasons where nobody is watching. The build is where you gain the skills, the scars, the perspective, and the endurance. You don't get those things from shortcuts or spotlight moments. You get them in the trenches when you're grinding, refining, failing, adjusting, and growing. Millionaire thinkers don't resist that process. They lean into it because they know the longer they spend building, the stronger they become. The stronger they become, the longer they can last. Longevity is the goal. Not a quick win, not a flash of success, but a foundation that can carry weight. This is why they're selective with their time. While others waste hours trying to look busy, they're focused on what actually produces results. They'd rather spend 5 years building something real than 5 months pretending, because what they're building is not just about them, it's about legacy. It's about impact. It's about creating something that continues even when they're not in the room. That takes intentionality. That takes a commitment to the boring stuff, the back-end systems, the team development, the daily disciplines that nobody claps for. Millionaire minds are not afraid of obscurity. They don't need validation to keep going. In fact, they're most dangerous when no one knows what they're doing. That's where they do their deepest work. That's where they develop their clearest vision. While others are distracted by likes, comments, and followers, they're mastering execution. And when they do show up, they show up ready, not needy, because they've built in silence what others try to borrow in public. They also understand that you attract what you're prepared to handle. If you're not ready for visibility, it will crush you. If you're not ready for responsibility, it will expose you. That's why the build matters. The build is not just about creating a business or a brand. It's about becoming the kind of person who can carry the weight of the success you're praying for. If you haven't built the internal structure, the emotional discipline, the mental clarity, the spiritual grounding, the external success will collapse on top of you. Millionaire thinkers know that every level of success requires a new level of structure. What worked at 6 figures won't work at 7. What sustained 10 clients won't sustain 10,000. So they're always building not just once, but continuously. They're not romantic about their past wins. They're focused on the next phase of growth. And that mindset is what allows them to scale without breaking. There's a confidence that comes from building, a quiet strength, a knowing. When you've built it brick by brick, no one can take it from you. You don't have to defend it or explain it. The results speak. And even if you lose it, you know how to build it again because it came from within. That's a different kind of power. It's not rooted in flash. It's rooted in mastery. So while the world is obsessed with going viral, millionaire thinkers are obsessed with going deep, deep in their craft, deep in their systems, deep in their identity, because they know the shine will come. But it will come after the build, and when it does, it won't be a spotlight that blinds them. It'll be a reflection of the structure they've already built, quietly, intentionally, unshakably.